about it. Let's talk about it. Don't you wanna talk about it? Let's talk about
JSpiration's
it.
live.
Don't you wanna talk
And now,
about it? Let's talk
Miss
about
JSpire.
it. Don't you wanna talk about it? Let's talk about it. Don't you wanna talk about it? Let's talk about it.
Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Fill Up Friday. Happy Fill Up Friday Live. If you are new to the show, my name is Mrs. JSpire. I am the host and creator of JSpirations Live. You may be asking, what is JSpirations Live and what is Fill Up Friday Live? Well, JSpirations Live is a motivational movement. It's a place where we come to talk with real people about real things and we have real conversation. So here on JSpiration Lives, we do believe in talking with real people about real things. We want you to know that you do not have to do life alone. And so we created this safe platform where we can talk about things that we have experienced, talk about things that you are experiencing, talk about things that you may experience, right? That we may be transparent and be able to help each other through this journey called life. What is JSpirations Live? Well, if you're like me, you work all week. There's so many things going on. You're usually tired at the end of the week. Sometimes you are empty. So Fill Up Friday Live is a place where we come to fill up, right? We talk about what we filled up on during the week. If you come and you are full, then we hope that you leave that way as well. But if someone comes on JSpirations Live and they are not full, they come empty, we hope that what we have, that we're able to sow into each other by sharing, myself sharing, audio, you guys being able to see me, being able to share and provide some motivation, and also you all coming and commenting, right? Sharing what you filled up on in hopes to be able to fill up someone else. So as you come in, please say hello. Let us know that you are here. We have a few things that we're going to be talking about tonight. Hey, Paula. And I hope that you all get in on the conversation as well. So we're going to give a few people a little more time to come on. I wanted to be able to comment. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I am going to see. This is acting a little second. It may have been frozen for just a quick second because I wanted to go on and be able to share. So I'm hoping you all can see what I just put in the comments. I'm not quite sure because I'm doing this from another platform and then it streams on to JSpirations Live on the from the platform. So Miss Deborah or Paula, if you all could copy my comment and then repost it, because if you're able to do that, then then we'll be able to see it as well. I want to be able to read it back. So if you can see my comment on Facebook, if you can copy it and then paste it as if it is your comment, and then we'll all be able to I'll be able to see it. I'll be able to see it as well. So tonight, I wanted to do things just a little bit different. If you're watching live, thank you so much for watching. If you are catching the replay, thank you for catching the replay. Please be sure to like, to share, and to also comment. I do, when I get the opportunity, I'll go back and read the comments to be able to respond. So tonight, and I'm sure that we have talked about this before. If you have been following JSpiration's live as well, then we also had an online radio show, and so we've definitely talked about this topic. But I was talking to someone earlier today, and they were saying, try to get a topic and figure out if we can give our thoughts and we can get our opinions as well. Because lots of times I am talking, and I'll do a lot of talking, and I know you guys will give me feedback. But tonight, I really want you all just to be able to give your feedback, give your thoughts as well about the topic that we're going to talk about. So I will be talking because you guys know I can't help it. But I want you to really participate tonight, and I want you to really put the comments into the chat. And then if for some reason you feel like you want to come live, I'll try to invite you in as well. But I really just want to get your opinion and get your feedback about some of those things tonight. So I want you guys to be participants, being vocal in the chat and not just listening. So I wanted to talk about boundaries a little bit tonight. And like I said before, we have talked about them before, but there's so many things going on in the world right now. And we don't do politics on our show, but, with politics and with relationships and people trying to figure out, how to mingle together, how to be in the same spaces, even when we don't have the same thoughts about things or the same opinions about things. And I'm one of those people who I believe that you're never going to believe or agree with everything that everybody says. We're individuals, and so we do have our own thoughts about things. But earlier this week, I had this situation take place where I was just thinking about boundaries, and not around politics, but just around life in general and friendships. And those things pop up in my mind a lot because I am a people person. I love to be with people. I love to be around people. And so if you follow and you look at the daily inspiration or when we post on Tuesday, I did post about boundaries and I posted about friendship. And so if you can read the comment there, then you see where I was just pretty much talking about using the word friendship loosely, and wanting to love on people and be around people, but wanting to love them with my humanity, right? Just because they're human, just because I'm human, and not so much love them with the title of friendship, because we do use it very loosely. So begin to drop into the comments. What do you all think about that? How do you feel about boundaries? How do you feel about using the word friendship? How do you feel about giving people second chances, or giving people opportunity to be in your space? I really just want to talk about that tonight, because life is life, and we go through a lot of different things, and sometimes we connect with people for different reasons. So let's just talk about friendship tonight. Let's talk about those boundaries. Let's talk about giving people opportunity to be in your space, or giving people second chances when you felt like they have done you wrong, when you felt like the friendship just isn't there. So I know there's about 5 or 6 people that's actually on. So tonight, I didn't want to spend a lot of time talking. I wanted to give you all the opportunity to comment. We'll have your comments pop up on the screen, and we'll just have a really good conversation. So you guys come on in the room, come on in the chat. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you are feeling. Let me know how you feel about me saying, or my thoughts, that I want to be able to love people with my humanity and not necessarily love them with that title of friendship. Let me know how you think about that. and not saying that I don't have friends or I don't want friendship, but sometimes we use that word so loosely. So I really kind of want to focus in on that as well. Good evening, Mother. So, Ma, I don't know if you and it just came up. So I know you're just coming on, but I was thinking about a conversation that you and I had today about just really, giving people the opportunity to Paula said, respect boundaries and give grace. So I'm going to go back and read what we posted on Tuesday. So Tuesday thoughts, and this could also be a Wisdom Wednesday, but I felt it today. It's only Tuesday, but I've been thinking about boundaries all week. Regardless of how much you love people and how big your heart is, you still have to set them, right? Talking about boundaries. Because of my personality and heart, people are often drawn to me. And because of my heart and personality, I often give chances. I'm learning to love with my humanity and not with my friendship, meaning I can treat people right, show them love and respect, but within those boundaries. So we're going to talk about that tonight. And again, we're going to give you all the opportunity to share some of those things. So I'm going to put Paula's comment up there first. And so Paula said, respect boundaries and give grace. So Paula is actually one of my best friends. And so she said, respect boundaries and give grace. And so Paula has always been one of those people who she does have boundaries and she always gives grace. Even when things are going on, I'm sharing things with her. She's still, regardless of what happened, she always still has grace in her heart for other people. And I'm giggling because she does respect boundaries, but I don't know if she always respect them with me because she will get me told, she will share, and it's because of our relationship. So we know that different people have different boundaries with, based on the relationship. So I'm giggling about that. But I'm just thinking about like sometimes people, because of relationships, sometimes people don't respect boundaries. Sometimes people expect for you to allow them to be them, regardless of how it affects you or how it hurts you or how it may harm you. I'm learning to say people can be how they are, but not just with me, especially if it's something that is going to harm me. So I'm asking those questions because I've been thinking a lot about boundaries in different spaces. Hey, Robinette. Hey, JY. So I've been thinking a lot about boundaries just in different relationships and different spaces that I find myself in and how to be able to set them and be able to still love on people, be able to still be who I am and be genuine and be myself, but to have those boundaries, not necessarily to guard my heart, but just to make sure I have the boundaries to be able to step back when I need to. Janice said, friendships along and boundaries changes with time based on God's direction for your life. JY, I wish I could bring you on camera for you to actually talk about that because I want you to be able to expand some more. So if you can do that in the comments. So, and I'm thinking that, you saying that, that's what I was saying about Paula and our relationship, that the boundaries do change. They have really changed based on the relationship that I have with her because we're at the point now where we're more than just friends, like we're sisters and like we're family. So those boundaries are changing in a positive way. And Lucy said, is it easy to set boundaries? So I don't know, Lucy, is it? For me, it did not used to be easy to set boundaries because being a people person, I didn't want to please everybody, but I wanted to be there for everybody. I wanted to have an open phone policy, right? Where if you had something going on, you could call me. I could talk to you. You could share, and I would be there for you all the time. And then I got into a situation, actually twice, where I felt like people would call me. They would tell me all the things that was going on. And then when things got right in their lives, they kind of kicked me to the curb. Like they didn't need to talk to me as often. They didn't need to call and check on me. And I was thinking, were they really calling to check on me? Because the only time they called is when they needed that advice. They needed me to give them something, right? And when I say something, it's not like something tangible, but they needed me to give them their ear. They needed the space. It was a safe space. And so over the years, I'm still myself. I still love people. I still give. I'm still there for people. But I do set boundaries because I no longer want to be in situations where things are 50-50. I want to be in situations where things are 100 and 100, knowing that there's going to be times where may not be 100%, and we're going to have to lean on each other a little more. But I needed to be a reciprocal situation. So I don't know, Lucy, is it easy to set boundaries? I think as I've gotten older, it's been easier for me to set boundaries because I'm learning more about myself and I'm learning more of my capacity. Paula says, know that you have the right to create your own village and be okay with that. Not everyone you connect with moves in the friend category. Absolutely. And I'm learning that too. And you guys, as people comment, piggyback on it. You can click on it to reply to that specific comment, and then we'll be able to have some more conversation. Dana says, hey, sister. Hey, everyone. I understand we can't be friends with everyone. We are called to love, but I believe we must also guard our hearts. Okay. So that's good. And that's, and I've been thinking about that too, because like I said, over the last couple of years, I have been guarding my heart more, but not necessarily setting boundaries just to guard my heart, but just trying to figure out who belongs in my sacred space and who doesn't. And what's so wild about this is back in 2019, that was our topic for our 1 year anniversary, like who and what's occupying your sacred space. Robinette says, protect your peace. And Robinette, that is good. And it's because I really know Robinette. I expected her to say this, but not really, because Robinette is a lot like me. Robinette wants to be, she wants to do, she wants to help. But I do believe that as we start to grow more, we do understand that our piece is important. I was talking to someone today, a stranger, right, that I don't even know. I was doing something for work. I walked out of the building and I went in my car to leave, and I saw this lady. She was walking by, and then she happened to be parked by me. So she went into the building, came back out the building. I had my windows rolled up, and she was just sitting there looking at me. And so, of course, I waved, and then she just kept looking at me. So I rolled my window down and I said, hey, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And she was like, yeah, I saw you. I just wanted to speak. I don't know her. She didn't know me. But I'm always honest, and I'm like, because of my personality, because of my smile, and I believe that God gave me that, it's purposeful. But because of my smile, people will sometimes just talk to me just because I'm smiling, right? Because I'm always speaking to people. And we sat and we talked for, she was talking to me. And so I talked to her for a little bit, and she was just sharing some of her story, right? I don't know her. She doesn't know me, but she felt comfortable enough. And she was sharing some of her story. And we were talking about God, and she was saying how, she always helped people in her family. She's like helping everybody. She was running herself raggedy. And so we started talking about boundaries. And then I shared with her that it is okay to be a resource, but she doesn't have to be the resource. right? I shared with her that she can say no, and she can say it with respect, and she can say it with love, but to be able to set boundaries so that she's in a healthy space. And as Robinette said, to be able to protect your peace. Lucy said, I always go too far with family and strangers. If I see a need from my perspective, I go with it. Why sometimes I just can't stop being who I am. And so, that's really deep to say, because that's one thing that I feel like we have to understand. And this is, of course, it's just my opinion. And so the opinions expressed on JSpirations Live by myself, those are just that, my opinions, my thoughts. And then those expressions or those thoughts expressed by the people that we're watching with tonight, those are, their thoughts, the individual thoughts that God gives us. And that's one thing. And I think that we've had these conversations before about, like, we should not stop being who we are, right? The young lady I was talking to today, she said, the things that I do it for God, right? Like, it's God. She said it was God, using her to do things for people. And I truly believe that. And because God can use anybody that he wants to do whatever needs to be done. But we also need to know that he can do everything and anything. So we don't have to do everything, right? Like, he puts us in certain places to do certain things. I truly believe that. But what we're doing, we're not doing it anyway. He's doing it. So we don't have to do everything, because he's going to take care of it, right? He's going to be able to supply those needs. And so he does use us. But sometimes I feel like we do have to also seek God. We see things and we want to do it, but we also have to seek God to know, is this something that I have been assigned to do? Right? God wants us to love. He wants us to be there. The Bible says, right, we're many members, right? And so we can't do things. We need each other, right? So we don't always have to be the person to do it. We can still be a part of it, right? But we don't have to necessarily be the person that's doing it. We have so many different skills and so many different things that he gives us. So we can't build a house, right? Well, I can't build a house, but I may be able to supply some of the material. And so that's how we have to look at it sometimes, that we don't have to do all of it. We have to ask God to allow us to be ourselves, who he has made us to be, but also ask God, what do you have me to do? Because sometimes we do things just because we want to do it and we do see a need, but we want to ask God, what do you have us to do? What is my part in this? Right? We don't have to do it all. And if God calls us to do it all, then that's another thing. Then we'll be obedient and we'll do it all. But we also, we talk about seeking God and asking for his guidance and wanting to be in his will. And so we can't just do that with some things. We have to do that with all things. And I say we, because I'm talking about myself too, because sometimes he's telling me to do something and I'm fighting it tooth and nail. Like, I don't want to do it at all. Right. Sometimes I don't even want to do part of it. And so that's why sometimes we're out there doing things on our own. And like, sometimes we are hurt. Our heart is broken, and we're not protecting our heart. But sometimes God is protecting our hearts. But we go and we do things anyway, just because we want to do it because of how our hearts are. Lucy said, it's not easy for me. Truly, I don't have any friends. I just react, but I do know how to back away. And that's knowing that capacity. And so that's what I think is important for us to start learning, is knowing our capacity and knowing when we need to sit down, when we need to have a seat. Robinette says boundaries are an absolute must, especially when you find that certain relationships, whether family, friends, etc., become draining or one-sided. You must protect your heart and your peace. Often as peacekeepers, we carry the burdens that aren't even ours. Absolutely. Somebody needs to hear. that tonight. And I know, like, I do it often. Sometimes I even do it at work. I'll go above and beyond to try to do something. And I had to tell myself this week, step back. What is your responsibility? What do you need to do? You don't have to carry all those bags, all those responsibilities, all those things. Things are going to get done. And I can't worry about all of it. There's a difference between being worried and being concerned or being aware. And oftentimes I find myself being worried about things. And I'm learning my capacity because I don't want to have worry. I want to be aware. I want to be concerned. I want to be observant, but I do not want to worry. Lucy said people like telling their stories to strangers. That is so true. I learned that a couple years ago. A stranger would say, "How are you doing?" And I would just start talking, and I wouldn't have done that before. But then if someone that was close to me asked, at first I wouldn't share that maybe I wasn't okay or things were going on. But people do like telling their stories to strangers. And Robinette says, seek God for divine direction. Absolutely. In all things. So I know tonight was a little different than I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't realize I was so far in the camera, but I was reading the comments. But tonight was a little different. And actually, y'all, my mom gave me the idea. She was like, you always, you're talking a lot and you share, and that's great, but try to make it a little more participatory. And so I enjoyed you guys. I always ask you all to comment, but thank you for really being more participatory tonight. So Crystal said, I don't even know if Crystal's still on here, but she said, I love that. You can say no with love and respect. Set your boundaries. It's God's job to save people. It's our job to allow our light to shine, to draw people to God, not us. Absolutely. And that's something that I'm learning. Yours was long, Janice. Put it back up there again. Oh, Crystal, you're still here. So yeah, and I mean, I love that. You said that is true. It's our job to have our light shining, and when people are drawn to us, but the ultimate goal is to draw them to God, to be able to because listen, we're not going to always be here, right? Or we're not going to always be available. And that's why I shared with her today, be a resource and not the resource, right? It's okay to be able to, help people along. But the goal is just like when I was doing case management, the goal wasn't for me to case manage them and do everything. The goal was for me to be able to be a resource for them and to be able to help them along, to be able to empower them, right? Because if they called me on a Saturday on my work phone, I wasn't going to answer, right? It wasn't even on. If they called me on a Sunday night, I wasn't going to be available, right? And so they had to wait till Monday morning, right, to get a response from me. Well, depending on what my role was at the time. But the thing is, the goal is to make them, to empower them. And so when the empowerment comes from God, because the only reason that we are able to be a resource for them is because He is our source. My pastor says it all the time. God is our source and He gives us resources, right? So He's giving us each other as a resource, not the resource. He is the source, right? And the resource that we should be giving people is God, because we're not going to be there 24/7. And it's not selfish to set boundaries to be able to take care of yourself. The thing about it is, if we don't take it, we want to be there for other people, but if we don't take care of ourselves, then we're not even going to be able to be a resource for someone else. So saying no with respect and saying no with love That is, when you start to set boundaries, then you know that it is okay to say no. It's okay to pull yourself out of the equation. It's okay to not jump up and run and go, even though we have that in our heart. And we're going to do it for certain people. It just depends on the relationship. But we also have to take care of ourselves. Let's see. Jana says it's too much to type. JY, what you got going on, girl? Hey, Dawn. Um, right. And the scripture absolutely says that we are our brother's keeper. Absolutely. But sometimes brothers don't want to be kept. Um, right? Like sometimes brothers don't want to be kept. And so I'm not saying to not be there for your brother, to not be there for your sister, but I'm saying to have to be able to set, just my opinion. We're talking tonight. Everybody has their own perspective. However, just going off the conversation and kind of guiding it a little bit, I have learned that some people don't want to be kept. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to be there, but you have to meet people where they are and you have to be there when they're ready. Because sometimes when they're not ready to be kept, then you're like a hamster on the hamster wheel. And so now not only is your brother going around and around and around and around on the wheel, but now you're on the wheel as well. And now both of us are dizzy, right? And now both of us may faint. We can't help each other. So we have to know what our capacities are and we have to set those boundaries so that we can be healthy for ourselves in order to be healthy for somebody else. Definitely learning to take time for myself. We also need to exhale, otherwise we'll live worn out. Absolutely. And if we're worn out, are we really living? Right? We're alive, but if we are worn out all the time, mentally, emotionally, and physically, are we really living or are we just alive? Remember, let me see, Lucy says, remember, God has already done all that is going to do. He has saved us. He has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. Crystal, thank you. She have to run, but I'm so glad I was able to tune in for a little bit. Blessings to you too, sis. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. We still have to have you on. Right. And God will allow some people for adversity. Right. And I mean, and we have to know sometimes we're in things and we do have to know God does allow, of course, God allows things to happen. Sometimes we make our own choices that aren't so great and we get our own selves into things and, things happen. But yeah, God will allow some people for adversity. We have to be able to walk through it. I think that, he allows us to go through those learning experiences too. And he allows us to go through those learning experiences to know that he is the only constant. Right? He's the only constant. And so we have to learn how to set boundaries with other people because sometimes they're also not going to be helped. Sometimes we don't need to talk to anybody. Sometimes we don't need to be in other people's space. Sometimes we just need to be in his presence. I know that there were some things I was going through, a couple years ago, and it didn't matter how many people I talked to, even the people that loved me. Paula, anytime something happened or I felt a certain way or she talked to me and I didn't sound right or something didn't feel right, she would be in her car, right? And she would be over here. It didn't matter what she had going on. It didn't matter. Don is talking to me, all times of day and night, right? Being there. JY just popping up at my house one day at the door. I didn't even know she was in my city. My mom just, coming anytime, right? All those things. And those were people who were being my resource, right? And as much as they loved me and as much as I loved them, nothing that they were able to say or do was able to get me out of that space. It was only when I was in God's presence that I was able to truly surrender, and then to be able to be in the space that I am in now. So I also had to set boundaries, because it was some things that wasn't even worth talking about or wasn't worth sharing, because although they love me and although I love them, the only way I was able to make it through was to be in God's presence, right? Was to really have conversation with him. And I had to set boundaries with talking to them or being with them, because they couldn't save me, right? And so I had to set boundaries with not pouring things on them. And every time I was upset or every time I was crying, like calling them and bombarding them, not that they wouldn't have been there for me, but just setting those boundaries to say it's no need to put all the concern and worry on them, because the only person that was going to be able to help me in the space that I was in was God. So that's a boundary too. So like, even sometimes it's not just about setting boundaries with people, just around like friendship or whatever, but also setting boundaries about putting too much on them, right? Not even so much about just, some making sure that nobody's putting too much on me or too much on you, but the opposite of me being saying, you know what? I have to have boundaries, because I don't want to put all those things on them either, because they love me, but that God is my source. And so being in his presence and spending time with him, that was the only thing that was going to get me through, so that I'm even able to sit with you guys tonight and be able to talk about boundaries, because I was in some weird spaces, right? And so we have to know, people that love you, they want to save you. People that really call you friend, they want to save you. People that you love, people that love you, they want to save you. But we have to have boundaries, because they can't. Yes, they can be a resource. Yes, God can allow them in your life, but they're just the resource. They're not the source. And so things could change for a little while, but the only way that there's going to be change and real change is you have to go to the source. So I feel like we have to have those boundaries as well. If you were in need of some place to live and I gave you money and you got the apartment and you moved into the apartment, right? But if you didn't have, may not be able to be your resource for the next year. So what are you going to do the next 11 months? You may not be able to pull on me for that, but what you have to do is be able to ask God, give me the strength, give me the ability, tell me what I need to do. Lord, I'm gonna spend some time with the Lord and say, Lord, where do I need to go to apply for a job? Or where do I need to go to get these resources? Right? You still have to go back to the source. So we have to have boundaries, because no matter how much we want to do, we want to be there, we're not going to always be able to be there. So we have to be able to set boundaries, and set boundaries for other people too. Janice said, I believe boundaries are based on God's purpose for each individual. We should be able to discern the spirit, which should lead us to better choices. Absolutely. Right? Because when we sup with him, when we spend time with him, he doesn't want our heart to be broken either. Right? And so we want to do something, we want to be there, we want to do things, but things that God gives us to do, things that God puts into our heart, when we're discerning his spirit, those things, they don't return void. Those things, it's going to happen. We're not going to have problems when it happens. I mean, we may have some setbacks. Things may not go as fast as we want them to go, but they're not going to fall on deaf ears. It's not going to be a disaster, right? It's not going to be hurtful. When he gives us something, he's going to see it through. We're going to be able to see it through. There's going to be an end to it. There's going to be a celebration to it, right? It's not going to end in negativity. It's not going to end in hurt. So we do have to be able to set those boundaries and really know. So I could go on and on and on about this topic, but we've been on for a while tonight, and I thank you all, and I enjoy having this conversation. And what I hope that this conversation brings you to, what I hope that you get from it is that we are a resource. We don't have to be the resource, and reminding ourselves and remembering that God is the source, and really asking God how to lead us and guide us in what we need to do and what relationships we need to have and what those relationships should look like, and what are our responsibilities in different relationships and in things, right? Because God has given us all, he's given us things for us to do. He's given us purpose. He's given us a responsibility. And so we don't have to do it alone. And so it's also good to set boundaries to be able to ask for help. I was one of those people that never wanted to ask for help for anything, trying to do it on my own. Again, when the Bible says, we have need of thee, we're one member body. And so I can't do something without someone else. So setting those boundaries, taking care of ourselves, knowing what our capacities are, and asking God what we should do. Paula, are you still here? Like, I'm calling people out tonight. Like, are y'all still here? Paula, you still here? And I do, and I thank God. Oh, the peace of God. Look, she could just gonna pop up and say something. The peace of God will guard your heart. I was just making sure you would see. I didn't see your comment at first. And God gives us certain people. Like, it's so funny because some of my best friends, we are so much alike but so different. Have you ever had a friend that you was thinking, like, we're a little different, right? But God just puts it, he sets it up. And that's why we have to have boundaries. And that's why we have to ask God, because when you love people, you just be like, oh, I'll give somebody a choice. Yeah, that's my girl, that's my friend. But God has really taught me, like, who my friends are, right? And he's taught me, who I can trust, right? Who I can go to, what my purpose is in their lives, and what their purposes are in my lives. And I think when you have friends and you're sure of those things, like, you're sure, and so you still have boundaries, but those relationships are so powerful, right? Like, Paula and I, we have boundaries. Sometimes we go back and forth about something, and she'll be like, you got to, and she, respect. So have the boundaries, like, okay, you got to do it the way, you know, you need to do it. And so, but it doesn't stop her from sharing her thoughts, right? And so that's what real friendships are about, being able to share your thoughts and share your feelings, but still being there to support the person and having the boundaries to know that they have to make their own choices, but being honest with them and being real with them, and having that 100% where everybody's giving 100%. Because sometimes, even with Paul, I'd be like, man, I don't feel like I'm giving 100%, but I feel like she's always giving 100%. Right. But she knows that I've been in spaces where, there's been dips. And so when there's been spaces when there's been dips, not only does she give 100%, but she gives 150%. And then she has that same expectation of me. Right. And so that's what that looks like. But having boundaries and also being able to respect each other as well. I think I'm rambling now because, like, all of my thoughts are, like, all together. Robinette said, I thank God for bringing you into my life. Who would have known years later we'd be here? Absolutely. And, Robinette, like, we don't even talk all the time. So there's boundaries there, but then there's so much respect there too, right? So, like, I'm not like, when I see her, I'm not like all in her business. Like, I haven't seen you and what's going on. But it's like, it's those boundaries that we have, but it's also that love and that respect that we have that we can pick up from anywhere, regardless of whether we talked last week or we didn't talk, 2 months. And so it's supposed to be about love. It's supposed to be about support. You're right, Robinette, uplifting each other. But then also, just making sure that we have those boundaries and we know, like, what our roles are in people's lives as well. And Don, I don't even know if Don is still on here, but it's the same thing. And so you just think about, like, some of those things. I know there's always things Don wants to tell me. She wants to say to me, but she always has the boundaries where she'll wait for me to say things or to cue things or say something about something, and then she'll come in. And that's one of the things that I love about her. Even though we may have experienced some of the same things, she has those boundaries that allows me to share, or not. And then, only then, does she start to give that feedback. So boundaries are good. I'm not saying don't have friends, because I have wonderful friends, but I also say, ask God who to allow in your space, and ask God who to allow in your heart. And ask God, what is your role? Even if you see a need, God, what would you have me to do? How would you have me to do it? Because God, I see the need and I want to do it, but being able to respect those boundaries and to be able to know what your capacity is, being able to know, are you able to, how are you able to take the rejection? How can you bounce back? And so it's not that I don't want to move with my heart, because I said in the statement that I want to be able to move with my humanity, and so and people would say, well, that's the same thing, moving with your heart and moving with humanity, or using the word friendship. No, I just I want to be able to not have to say that's my new friend, or like whatever. I just want to treat people good just because they're human, no strings attached, knowing that I'm a resource. So this may be something where I may pop in, I do something for somebody, I give somebody something, whether it's a word, whether it's a little change in their hand, or whatever it is, and you just kind of move on. And so you're showing the love of God through those things that you're doing, but you don't necessarily have to be attached to it. Like, God, what is my assignment? And so boundaries, ask God what your assignment is, in the space that He has put you in. Because hey sis, Lord, I don't even have time to get into this one that just popped on. We've been friends since we was in the 7th grade, the summer before 7th grade. But like, ask God, what is your assignment? Because if you are in a space, you do have an assignment, right? But ask God what your assignment is, so that you can be sure to set your boundaries, to follow His lead, do what He has placed you to do, and then go to your next assignment. All right, you guys. So I love y'all. I love y'all. I love y'all. Thank y'all so much for rocking with us tonight. This has been an amazing conversation. Mother, thank you. Look, I guess Mom didn't want to be hearing my voice, and she's still hearing my voice, but I'm loving the comments. And I'm going to call her when this is over and say, Ma, it did work. I love all the participation that we had tonight. And we will do it again next week. I love you guys. Enjoy your weekend. I love you too, Don. It has been an amazing conversation with some amazing people. Again, if you're catching a replay, make sure to comment. I'll do my best to come back and drop some comments in there behind you. Enjoy your weekend. I think it's supposed to be beautiful. So get out, get some vitamin D. Spend some time with yourself, spend some time with the people that you love, be safe, and as always, be JSpire. Love you too, mommy.